I've programmed up a little part for this song using the clean Fender full range sound, and I want to use it as a vehicle to show you how round robin samples and legato samples work in Trillion. Let me play you the part I have programmed now and listen to it as is, and we'll look at it a bit more closely in a moment. All right, you get the idea. It's a fairly simple part, and it's only using a few notes, and it's fairly repetitive. Let me hide Trillion for a moment, and I'll play it for you in isolation. You can hear it soloed. All right, now here's a simplified version of the part. I'm going to play you. It's just quarter notes. I want to show you how the round robin feature works. You'll see here that each note is the same velocity and same note length. Now, one of the problems when you're playing parts like this is that they can sound very mechanical and repetitive, triggering the same note, the same sample at the same velocity all the time. Now, the makers of Trillion have included what are called round robin samples, and what that means is there's an alternate set of samples for each note at each velocity, so that when you're playing repeated notes like this, we don't hear the exact same sample all the time. We hear some variations to give it a bit of variety. Now, we control that in Trillion in a couple of different places, but mainly in the system page here, we have the round robin setting, and we have a choice here. Right now it's set to random, but we can have no variation. Let's listen to the same part where it's playing no round robin samples, so it's going to be triggering the exact same sample each note. Very mechanical sounding. Now, the different sound sources have different numbers of round robin samples embedded in them, and we can get to that information when we look at the patch or sound source info. Now, for example, on this patch over here, we can see it says 4 times round robin. That means there's 4 different notes sampled for each velocity. You can get this information here and in the sound source browser. So let's go back here and listen what it sounds like. So again, with no variations, just to refresh your memory. And to go through the cycle, we can go sequentially, where it'll play each of the 4 round robin variations in a row and then keep repeating them. You can hear the third one has a bit more of a subtle accent. Or we can randomize them. Or we can randomize them full cycle, meaning that they'll randomize within the sequence of, in this case, 4 round robin notes. There can be up to 20 round robin samples, but it'll randomize them, but not repeat a note until the full cycle has been played. I'm going to leave it at random for now. Now, the next feature I want to show you is legato samples. So let's go back to our part here. I'm going to close this up. And we have in the main page, we have a legato switch where we can turn legato mode on and off. Let me hide this for a moment. And again, I want to go back to the original part. And let's listen to this and look at it in a note editor. So you can see I'm alternating between 2 notes, and what I'm doing is holding down one note while I play the second note, and this allows for a hammer-on and pull-off type of musical way of playing the instrument that's very realistic to the way real stringed instruments are played. Let me recall Trillion over here and the keyboard, and I'm going to show you how this works. So in the main page here, we have this legato switch on and off. So with it on, watch what happens when I hold a note down, and you can see on the keyboard here how I'm holding it down and playing the second note in relation to the first. So you see in here that allows a hammer-on type of sound. Now with legato off, listen to what that sounds like. And again, I'll bring the keyboard up front. So we hear the first note sustaining. It's not cut off temporarily when we play the second note. That's what legato samples do. It cuts off and allows for that hammer-on and pull-off type of effect. But wait, you see when I went more than a major second away from that original sustained note, it reverted to the old typical behavior where it doesn't cut off the note that's being sustained. So the legato notes have a specific range, the legato interval, and we can set that in the sound source zoom. So let's go to the edit page here. We haven't looked at this yet, but here's the sound source that's loaded in. We're on layer A, and this is a single layer instrument. And I can call up the browser here, but what I want to do is call up the sound source zoom, which brings us an additional set of controls. So here we have the option to use legato sound sources, and we can turn that on or off optionally, but let's leave it on right now. And the default is a major second interval, but we can have a larger interval if we want, if we're planning on using that type of effect for a wider range in the part that we're using. So I'll set it to a fourth for now. I'll close that up. I'll go back here, and you'll see now that I can do the same thing, and it'll work within the range of a fourth. And you see when I went a tritone away, it reverted back. And the same thing works ascending as well as descending. So you set the range or legato interval in the sound source zoom. So just to recap, round robin samples allow for alternate samples to be used when the same note is being triggered. And we set that in the system page over here, and we can alternate between playing no variation using the full sequence of as many round robin samples are available, randomizing them, or randomizing them within the sequence before any other notes are repeated. And we can also use legato samples, and that's available in the sound source zoom, and that allows for hammer-on and pull-off type of effects over a user-definable range or interval to more faithfully create or recreate the nuances of a live bass instrument. See you for more in the next video.